Welcome to Wabasanwire. Today we're talking about netizens' reaction toward Malaysian Chinese Association, President Ka Siong's strong rejection of the label that attempts to position the Democratic Action Party as Malaysian Chinese Association 2.0.
It was a very deliberate statement. It seems the whole firestorm really boils down to this one question he posed himself. He said, what do they have to compare?
Right.
He said that during the 30th Central Delegates Conference, and it just immediately set off this chain reaction online. It was a direct challenge to the Democratic Action Party's record versus the Malaysian Chinese Association's 60 years of history.
Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Before we even get to how people reacted, we need to understand his argument. What was he actually basing this on? What were the specific points he used to make his case?
Well, his entire strategy was to anchor the argument on tangible things, specifically on education. The core claim was that the Democratic Action Party just doesn't measure up on that front.
A smart move, focusing on something concrete that people, can see and count.
Precisely. And he was incredibly specific about it. He highlighted that the Malaysian Chinese Association founded 2 major universities. And crucially, he put a number on it. He said over 50-plus years, these places have educated more than 400,000 graduates. That's not just a claim, it's a statement about a huge long-term impact.
And this is where it gets really interesting, because he didn't just stop with universities, he brought it down to the grassroots level, to primary schools.
You did. He claimed the Malaysian Chinese Association was responsible for about 100 new Chinese primary schools and a bunch of relocation projects over its history.
But then he sharpened the point even more.
Yes, and this is where he set the political trap. He didn't just use a historical average. He pulled out a very pointed, very recent example. He said that in 2017 alone, under the Barisan national government, his party got approvals for 10 new Chinese primary schools and 6 relocation projects.
2017, that's a crucial year. It's right before the election that changed everything. So he's using their peak influence as the metric.
Exactly. And by choosing that specific year, he turns it into a direct challenge. He then just asks the question outright to the Democratic Action Party. How many approvals have you secured?
He even broke it down for them.
He did. First from 2018 to 2020, and then again from 2022 until now. It was a clear attempt to define the entire comparison on grounds where he felt his party had an undeniable historical advantage.
But I mean, let's be real for a second. Is that a fair comparison? 60 years of holding key ministerial posts versus, 3 fragmented years as a junior partner in a coalition?
And that's the central tension, isn't it? It's what the netizens really seized on later. But from his perspective, he needed to frame the debate around deliverables. And on that front, the numbers are what they are.
Okay, so let's move past the education metrics. He also tried to claim the moral high ground. He made this very blunt statement, we serve with integrity. That's a huge claim to make in today's political climate.
It is a massive claim. And he tried to back it up by saying that since the 2018 general election, not a single Malaysian Chinese Association leader has been charged with corruption in court.
Right.
He then contrasted that with other parties, even pointing out that there are current members of parliament facing court cases.
So his argument for integrity is essentially not getting charged for the last 6 years. That feels like a very low bar. It's more about relative cleanliness than, actual virtue.
That's exactly how it comes across. He sort of implied that this proves the party did okay on integrity, and then he moved on to this idea of comparing failures. He admitted that past governments, including ones they were in, got criticized, but, he argued, the current government is doing even worse. It's a classic political move.
I see. So he's basically saying, we acknowledge our past wasn't perfect, but we were still better than what you have now. And by the way, here's our long list of achievements.
And it raises this interesting contradiction because he explicitly said the party must not compare failures, but strive to be the best. Yet the whole speech was structured as a direct comparison.
So that was the case he laid out. 6 decades of delivery, universities, schools, and a claim to recent integrity. How did that go over with the public?
The reaction was immediate.
Yeah.
And it pretty much rejected the entire premise of his comparison. The biggest group of netizens just threw it out, not based on his metrics, but on their own.
They didn't buy the historical argument.
Not at all. The number one theme you see in the comments is this idea of 60 years of power versus the Democratic Action Party's short time in government. But they saw it as a liability, not an asset.
They focused on the seat count, right? I saw that everywhere.
Everywhere. That simple, brutal ratio, 40 versus 2. How can you compare? It just cuts through all the historical debate and boils it down to raw, present-day political relevance.
One comment really stood out to me. It was something like, they have 40 seats, Malaysian Chinese Association only has 2. What is there to compare?
And that really sums up the mood. It implies that all those past achievements are irrelevant if you can't translate them into real power for the community today.
What's so fascinating is how that 60-year legacy, which he presented as his trump card, was instantly turned against him. The public memory seems very, very long.
Oh, it is. And it's filled with resentment. You saw netizens using really strong language, phrases like the Malaysian Chinese Association had sold out the interests of the community over those decades.
I saw one that was particularly harsh, saying they had cleaned out the gold mountain.
Yeah, that one was powerful. It suggests the party used up all its political and moral capital over 6 decades and now has nothing left to offer. It's a devastating rebuttal.
So the public is essentially saying those universities and schools were the price of doing business, but the long-term cost was a loss of trust.
Exactly. Others were a bit more analytical, saying, look, if the Malaysian Chinese Association had truly served with integrity all those years, the community would still be behind them. Their current position, with only 2 seats, is seen as completely self-inflicted.
Okay, now what about the integrity claim? That we serve with integrity line. I imagine that got a lot of pushback.
It was probably the most fiercely debated point. People immediately brought up specific political events.
The Sheraton move.
Yep. Multiple comments referred to them as the SD Party, directly linking the Malaysian Chinese Association to that whole government shift. It just shows that the public has not forgotten who did what during that period. That memory completely undermines any recent claims to, moral purity. The criticism wasn't all one-sided. The Democratic Action Party also came under fire.
What were people saying about them?
Some netizens felt they'd become too passive, too focused on fighting other community parties instead of governing. One comment was quite memorable. It said they were hiding in the salon.
Hiding in the salon. Okay. But there was also a point made about accountability, which seemed to favor them.
Yes. A few people pointed out that at least the Democratic Action Party has shown some accountability. They cited examples of high-ranking leaders publicly apologizing after an election failure.
Something they claim the Malaysian Chinese Association has historically refused to do.
Exactly. So for the public, it seems integrity isn't just about not being charged, it's also about owning your mistakes.
But the general feeling I get from all this is just exhaustion.
Total exhaustion. You see so many comments saying that both parties end up the same once they're in power. They just become quiet, hiding behind the prime minister.
Which leads to this bigger fear, doesn't it? That all this infighting just weakens the community's overall voice and influence in the country. It helps nobody.
At the end of the day, that's the real tragedy here. What the netizen reaction shows is that political legacy isn't just about building universities anymore. It's about trust. It's about accountability right now.
The president's challenge was meant to highlight decades of achievement, but the public just changed the topic. They wanted to talk about the political costs of those achievements. For them, it's not about what was built, but about what was compromised.
That's the real story. This tension between historical contribution and the perception of recent failure. The people are essentially saying, you can talk about the foundations you laid 60 years ago, but we see the cracks in the walls today, and we remember who was in charge when they appeared.
Thank you for joining us for this analysis. Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.